Going to YouTube anytime now. Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 348 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 live podcast in Canada. We're recording on May 9th, 2022. As always, my name is Andrew, and I'll be your host.
We need your help. To support Canadian Patriot Podcast, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and tax. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right.
This takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? And one thing you've done for the Patriot Challenge. So you're good people, and I assume you've done something. As is tradition, we will start with Liz. Liz, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some Kentucky bourbon. It's really tasty. Yeah, it's called Angel's Envy. I recommend it. Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Yeah, and I exercised today. Learned a new skill, all the above.
Excellent.
I don't know if I'm supposed to expand on that, but
Can if you like. There are some podcasts that have talked about things that they have done completely unrelated to their show for hours.
that might have been us last week too.
I mean, yeah, but at least I didn't talk about my RC car collection.
Yeah.
I did find out.
Shout
I
out
did
to
find
you,
out
Trevor.
though. I did find out that my dogs love RC cars.
Well,
Shoe
yeah.
toys or just to chase?
Just to chase. It kept my nephew
toy if they
and
can
my
catch 'em.
dogs. Yeah. It kept my nephew and my dogs entertained for quite a while this weekend.
Excellent. Peter? No, Peter's not here. That's terrible. Let's go to Pierre instead. Pierre, what are you drinking?
Same name, different language. It's fine.
Pierre
Oh.
is very
Frozen?
angry looking and possibly frozen. Well, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
gonna say he's frozen.
Maybe Gavin. Why don't we try you? Gavin, are you drinking? Of course
I
you're
am.
drinking. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Kraken and Diet Pepsi. I had to crack the bottle of Kraken the other day for my hot toddies as I was recovering from the COVIDs.
Oh, so you had a cold, huh?
Yeah. I tested positive on Thursday morning, and then this morning, late morning, I tested negative. I have survived the plague. It was not that bad. It was kind of just like a sore throat for a few days.
But just think, if you didn't have 4 booster shots, how much you could have died.
That's true. If I did not have my 15 booster shots, I definitely would have died.
I'm not sure if Pierre is back. He moved slightly. He still looks frozen. Pierre must be frozen. Benny, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some PC General Lager again, and I took a first aid course today, so
Excellent.
re-upping the certification.
Well, that's very good. I have cider from Collective Arts. It's Circling the Sun. It's their apple cherry cider, and it's very good. And I am back on the exercise train. I have had enough of breaking my step streaks, and I'm trying to get my 45 minutes of activity and get my 10,000 steps in every day, because that's my goal that my watch sets for me. The rucking kind of threw things off. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I was not into walking for a little bit.
Shocking. That
Pierre,
looks like
you look
Pierre
like
is
you're
alive.
back.
So yeah.
I think so.
What are you doing?
Hey, we can hear you.
Whiskey and water. And one thing I hope to be a better person, I help teach someone to do stuff without being an asshole.
Hey, that's practicing a skill.
Yeah. Yeah. Did a training session on Sunday. Had a piece of equipment we sent to the dealership. And after a crap load of money, it crapped out. So I was like, I'm done with this. So I was like, meet me here, and we went through some troubleshooting and all that. So teaching diagon with someone. So
Sweet. So now they're able to do it on themselves in the future?
probably not, but
Yeah. It's a start.
yeah, hopefully, but we'll see.
For upcoming events, you'll want to check the website. Not going into those. There's no listener feedback because I haven't checked email. To the news. First one's in Rebel News. Liberals quietly impose new firearms laws, including backdoor gun registry, takes effect in 10 days. This
From yesterday.
came out yesterday. The internet is in an uproar. I'm not really entirely sure what happened because I apparently was not paying attention yesterday.
I didn't
It
catch
looks
this
to me-
either.
It looks to me like 2 new orders in council were passed on the 29th of April. And they're going to be further amending the Firearms Act.
Yeah, so this is just putting stuff from C71 that they put into, I guess, Royal Ascension, what, two elections ago?
Yep, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that before or after they prorogued Parliament?
Do
you remember when that was?
No,
I'm just trying to remember whether this
before?
was like, 2 or 3 sittings of Parliament or whatever you want to call it ago.
I don't want to call it any of
don't
those
know.
things, but I'm very irritated about this. So they're
Yes.
Yeah.
the big change that seems to be coming into effect, the change to the Firearms Act, is the transfer of non-restricted firearms will now require permission from the Registrar of Firearms, which means
Is
calling
it
the Canadian
perm-
Firearms Program, which is administered by the RCMP.
Here's my question. How do they
It's
know that
permission.
they're non-registered?
Well, it doesn't matter if they're registered or not. It's going to be that if they're non-restricted, you must now call in order to get a transfer.
And it's non-registered is what this article says.
Well,
Like-
I think they made an error. It's supposed to be non-restricted, I think.
Okay, because I was like, that
Non-restricted.
doesn't make sense.
It will be non-registered until you call to get the transfer number, in which
Right.
case it will be registered, hence the backdoor gun registry,
Yeah, but there's going
Well,
to be backdoor buying and selling.
allegedly.
Well, I think there's always
mean-
been backdoor.
Don't we
buying and
want the
selling
government
of-
outside the bedroom?
I was
Yes.
just about to say, sounds like a lot of backdoor stuff thanks to government.
Yeah. They do like their backdoor stuff.
Gotta write
It
that down
doesn't
before
really
I
make
forget.
sense.
I know. This is one of those things that, like, effectively anyone that has their PAL as of May 17th will legally be able to be in possession of basically anything that is unregistered up until the time that they die. Anyone that receives their PAL after that fact effectively is not allowed to be in possession of any of those things unless they are registered, because they will have to have either been bought new from a store or transferred ownership after that date.
Well, and help me with the registration part, because I understand the internet is very upset about this. CGN is very
Yes.
upset, and when CGN gets upset, I log off because I can't deal with that. It's like Bear Defense Tuesdays. It's just
So
not
the
my.
best defense in this is to just never log on.
Well, the internet seems to be very upset about this, and I'm not sure I follow their reasoning. So if you have a non-restricted firearm, and I don't know, maybe if I use Gavin as an example, Gavin, you have a non-restricted firearm,
Yes.
a nylon 66, for
Yes.
example,
Yeah.
the charm of the 22 world,
Yes.
and you wish to
My
sell me
super
your nylon
precision-
66
yeah.
for
The
some
upcoming
number of-
ORPS match. Yeah.
yes, so I'm going to trade you some number of beaver pelts for your very mint condition nylon 66.
Yeah.
You have a PAL, I have a PAL, you have a firearm, I have a collection of beaver pelts. I'm going to trade you my collection of beaver pelts for your very stylish nylon 66. You need to call the RCMP and tell them that you're going to sell it to me
Yes.
and give them my firearms license information, and they're going to give you a transfer number, and then
Yes.
I have to call the RCMP and give them the transfer number and then they're going to tell me it's okay that I can give you the beaver pelts in exchange for the firearm. Is that roughly
Correct.
the process?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Much
what
like
was-
if we were to trade handguns, very similar
Right.
process. Yeah.
Well,
that
so
was
I guess this
what
is
the
where.
gun registry. That was the same process though when the actual long gun registry was in.
Correct.
Well, and I think the difference with this is the last
It's a
step
pain in
after
the ass, really.
after the Canadian Firearms Program gives you the transfer number and says that it's okay for me to do this legal transaction between two people who are legally in possession of firearms. Do we get any paperwork from the Canadian Firearms Program to say that like we have ownership of this now? Do you have
Yeah, I
like a
don't-
registration certificate that you need to have nullified, or do I get a registration certificate for my non-restricted nylon
nor
66?
nor do they like give me a word that they're going to tell you to give me so I can verify that you've actually called them and got the transfer completed. Because like,
It seems
I mean-
like a very half-assed government process.
but also a very annoying one.
So just a regular government process?
So I think the assumption from this then, and again, I'm not really sure because I've not been paying attention to the internet for the last 48 hours. The assumption is then that the Canadian Firearms Program is going to keep track of the registration or the transfer numbers so that they know that you've transferred a certain firearm of certain make, model, and serial number to me.
Well, that is the concern. Like I guess it hasn't been said one way or the other whether they will log that information or how much information they are going to get, whether they just log that I sold something to you, or will they say, okay, well, I sold what type of shotgun, or are they going to get down to the serial number specific of it, or
Well,
like
that would be the part that I'd be interested in, was if they start logging the serial numbers.
then it's absolutely a registry.
Right.
Well, yeah, that was from remembering back to when we first started when the discussion of C-71 first came out. I remember it being like, no matter how many firearms were being transferred, no matter, it would just be one transfer number, and you wouldn't necessarily have all that data involved. But I
mean, I could
I'm
sell
trying to
3 or
look it
4
up now,
guns
and I
all at the
can't
same
find it.
time, and they could just have one transfer number but log all of the information if it's going
Right.
from one person to another single individual.
Well, and this is
right?
where where I'm very fuzzy on this, and part of this seems to be the internet is the gun owning part of the internet is very excited about this because it's going to make our lives more difficult, and I don't discount that, but I'm also not sure from what the government has released how they plan to do this. And the CSAA's come out and said like businesses need time to implement these things, and the Canadian Firearms Program is only going to be staffed like 9 to 4 Eastern Monday to Friday. So does that mean that I
government
can't
hours.
do a transfer of a non-restricted firearm on evenings or weekends?
So
'cause if this
basically
applies
when
to
all
gun
of the gun
stores-
shows happen, yeah.
Right. So if this applies to gun stores, if I go into my local gun store on a Saturday, I have to then wait
Return
for
on
the gun
Monday.
store to call on Monday to start the transfer, and then I have to go back the next week to pick it. Like there seems like a lot of not well thought out logistical burdens with this.
Well, that, and I mean,
or they'll fix the stupid registry idea in terms of actually having someone to rubber stamp it and just have a rubber stamp. The seller goes online, puts in the information, everything goes forward, and the person can walk out that day. But the fact still remains that they're going to start a registry.
Is there a plan from the government to put an online system in place to do this? Because my
There already
understanding
is.
is you have to call the
Nothing that we've
CFP.
seen.
No,
There's nothing that says that now, but I
stores.
mean, I wouldn't
Stores
be
have a portal.
okay. so
Stores
there's
have a portal for
there's different-
restricted firearm transfers.
Well, what would
there
be
are
the difference
different
between this
things
and
in
restricted?
place here. So, as part of the individual to individual sales, they are also implementing when a gun store sells a new non-restricted item, they must log all of the information in a book that needs to be kept for 20 years.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
So
they're going to write down what sold, what serial number, who they sold it to, and probably also likely have to call in to get a transfer. So now the government will know that that's been transferred to you, or at the very least, anytime they feel like going to the gun store to look at the books, which they are allowed to do without a warrant whenever they feel like it, from my understanding, they can take a look at that book and see that I purchased used from a gun store on May 19th a used nylon 66 to replace the one that I sold to Andrew.
For 3 beaver pelts.
Yes. And then if they show up at my house for an unrelated incident and they see that I no longer have that rifle, I'm in big doo-doo.
Well, I think this is my confusion and concern both with this. I don't understand what the government is trying to get at. It seems like this is a good way to make a registry, but it also seems like a terrible way to implement a registry.
Well, by your logic, Gavin, I guess it would be pretty hard for them to actually know who the current owner of certain firearms are.
Well, and that's
Because if it's been passed, like, because when did the long gun registry, like non-restricted, when did that leave? When was
16?
that out again?
2016?
Something like that,
something
right?
like that, yeah.
So I personally know a lot of firearms that have, like, a single firearm that's passed multiple hands, right? So, like, as much as their wording and their processes in their head, like,
Well, like, I could see
it's
if, like,
garbage.
if there was a massive amount of straw purchases happening, but like there wasn't. We have the data to support that. Was there like the odd one here or there? Sure, but that's not going to stop that from happening.
No, and how many
like,
crimes realistically are being committed with non-restricted firearms? The vast majority of firearms that are used in the commission of the crime are smuggled into this country, and they're illegal handguns.
Yeah,
but I mean,
and like
also
quadruple
preaching to the
illegal
choir,
too,
right?
But yeah,
So,
because I mean, previously, I wasn't even required to call in to check the validity of anyone's PAL. I could do so if I had reason to believe that I didn't trust the validity of their PAL. But like, that's all you would have to do is call up and go, hey, I'm going to sell something to somebody. Can you please run this PAL and tell me if it's good or not?
Sure,
So
yeah.
I have I just put it in the chat box, but for a quick perusal of the Section 5, 23, and 23.1 of the Act are replaced by the following: authorization to transfer a non-restricted firearm, so on, so on, so forth. Basically, you just need to make sure that the license of the other person is valid, and then they give you a transfer number. There doesn't seem to be any request for any information about the firearms being transferred.
But like,
that's not to say it doesn't start. That's the argument from the beginning was. This is just starting off with a registry.
well, this is what I want to know, because the internet, the CCFR in particular, is saying that this is a backdoor registry, and if that's the case, is the Canadian Firearms Program recording make, model, and serial number? And if they are they retaining that information? And even if they're not, this is still dumb. Like, that doesn't discount the stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be ideologically consistent in our application here.
That's not really applicable for the government. One of the viewers here is like, watch Ian Runkle's video on this. That's Runkle in the Bailey, I think, right?
Yes, it's the man with the long hair.
Yeah, the guy that looks like he belongs on Lord of the Rings.
With all those YouTube monies, you could get a haircut.
I know, right? He points out that the new rules are going to be heaven for criminals for ID theft and abuse of the info and future transfers. So it's really just, expounding the same problems that already exist.
I don't disagree with that, but it requires them to have access to a bunch of other personally identifying information. If somebody is going to get a list of non-restricted firearms license holders because they hack the CFP and they get all of the transfer information.
It's way easier to go to like Canadian Tire
and steal the green book, which has happened how many hundreds of times?
But again, this is not a new or difficult problem to solve, because retailers are bad at looking after their stuff. And there are gun stores that have had ammo registries. If you buy ammo there, they write down your firearms license information, occasionally your address information, the things that you're buying. This is
which is going above and beyond what they're required to do, but some of them.
But that's not an identity theft problem. That's a targeted, like, they're going to come to your house and steal your shit problem.
Yeah.
So does that mean that within the next 9 days, my clock restarts for the gun purchases that I may make?
I would say that you have a limited window of purchasing things if you would like to have a higher resale value.
Yeah, it really, how they implement this is going to be the thing that matters, but we're not going to know how they implement it until they actually implement it. I
And
think I
somebody
don't
starts
understand
trying
how
to
they
do
can.
something.
I don't understand how they can say in 20 days. This was April 29th
Yeah.
that the order in council came out, and it goes into force on May 18th. I don't know how they can say in 20 days that they're going to have a process and it's baked and it's ready to go and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, the government does not move at that kind of velocity for literally
What-
anything ever.
I mean, they haven't even figured out in 2 years how to buy our guns back from us.
No,
right,
and I
like-
think this is, I mean, I think this is a lot to do about nothing, but hey, now's as good a time as any to go buy a gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can think of one time that the government moved that fast when they did the emergency act.
Well, even the Emergencies
That
Act
also
still
was
took,
half
what was,
baked.
Yeah.
That was also
well,
half
how,
baked.
how long was the protest in Ottawa going on before the Emergencies Act was invoked? That was, again, that was over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the time of implementation to the time when they were like, "Oh no, we're good," because of
I mean, to be fair, it was less than 20 days.
Fair.
So they were moving slightly faster.
no.
But yeah, this whole thing is stupid and I don't think it's going to work. But like also, I do like to see that like there has been a recent surge in purchases. And some companies have even released some product early for people to get ahead of the date, allegedly.
So does that mean
What can I
that?
get now that I couldn't get last week?
I
But
mean,
I don't know.
lots of stuff.
Okay, great, awesome.
But so technically, I would. I mean, we're no lawyers, and you should probably follow all laws. But let's say I've got a gun that technically is not really registered to me, and I
Oh,
make
so you
a
mean you
sale.
currently own a non-restricted firearm?
Yeah.
Legally, in
My
accordance with the
currently-
laws and your firearms license.
Yeah.
So
Much like Gavin's nylon 66 that I intend to buy for three beaver pelts.
Yeah.
right. So let's say you make that deal for 3 beaver pelts, but you didn't buy it recently, so it's not registered somewhere. The date of purchase, and
Yeah,
there's no way of
but-
proving when this sale technically happened.
Oh,
In theory, that sale could easily have happened pre-May 18th, 2022.
Yeah,
And no
right.
one would know. This is where the problem is, though, right? So that eventually we're going to get to a point where everything is going to need to have been registered or it's illegal, right? So when all of the people that currently have a gun license are dead or no longer have licenses, and you only have people that are around that have received a license after May 18th, 2022, everything needs to have been logged at some point, somewhere, at some time, because it will have had to have transferred hands. Because even when you are gifting something to a family member, your spouse, whatever, you need to call it in and get a transfer number. So eventually all of these guns will have been registered in some shape or form.
they just
I mean,
reinstituted the
tribal
long gun
skill?
registry. It's literally in the bill.
Huh.
Part 2,
It's not
ending
a
long
bill.
gun registry. I'm saying C71. It says if you look at the OIC section. Oh wait, no, I misread it. My
And
mistake.
they keep saying that it's not a long gun registry when it has
Which-
all of the pieces of it.
I don't know
Potentially.
that that's true. If you read the part of section 23, all they're talking about is valid licenses and transfer numbers. They're not talking about
Well, and that's the
identifying characteristics of the firearm. And
Yeah, but-
this is the big, like, what's the RCMP and the Canadian Firearms Program actually going to do versus what
That's-
the
that's
Act
the
says?
that's the problem, is because like much like CBSA and all of the other people like to reinterpret the rules and go, well, we need to know this, or like you're like, do you though? Like,
Well, and this is part of my confusion and concern with this. If I have to get Gavin to call CFP, and Gavin provides his firearms number and says, "I want to," or his your license, your PAL number. If you provide your PAL number and say, "I want to sell a gun to Andrew," is the CFP just going to be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," and then start a transfer number, and I call in to complete the transfer, but they're never going to ask what the gun in question was?
yeah, then like it's a nuisance,
if-
but whatever. Like,
Well, that's
Well,
the way
well-
that the new version of Section 23 of the Act reads to me. That's how
Yes,
I
but
read
in
in plain English.
practice-
That's how I read Section 23.
Yeah.
There's key criteria in Section 23. The person transferring one or more non-restricted firearms holds the license for the possession of a non-restricted firearm. The registrar, the CFP, issues the reference number. The transferee has a valid license. The reference number is still valid. Why it would be invalidated in that period of time, I do not understand, but I guess they could invalidate it, I guess.
Or
And-
no, it has an expiration date.
Right, but like, so again, Gavin's going to sell me his nylon 66. Gavin calls the CFP. Gavin's like, hey, I'm going to sell Andrew a gun. The CFP is like, cool, here's your transfer number. Gavin gives me the transfer number. I call the CFP. I go, hey, I'm Andrew. This is my PAL number. Here's the transfer number. And they're like, yep, cool, done. But nowhere in that exchange, they actually like talk about the firearm in question.
Yeah. Then it's a nuisance, but like, who cares? Because it's not a real registry in it. They don't know what transferred. But when you piece it all together, eventually, even without that, you would still have a trail of what goes from who to who to who by a little bit more convoluted means, because in the registry
But
at the
only
store
if they
level,
have
Yeah, only if
Well,
they have serial
yes.
numbers, make
So
model.
wait a second.
serial number, make, and model. And the store level piece is a different problem. Individual
Yeah.
sales, person to person. If you're buying a firearm from a retail store,
yeah,
then yes, the retail store is recording that
yeah,
transaction.
and that's the like.
If-
Okay, then
you
if
look
they
at
go
Bill
to look
C-
at my stuff, and I've got
But
a
that-
May 19th,
I guess-
I buy a gun,
This is
and
the
then I
argument.
call it in.
This is the same argument about the period. Was this right after, right before the long gun registry, the green book, where the retailers had to record this information as part of the
Yeah.
transaction? If that information doesn't make it back to a central place, is it really a registry? Because is a police force going to go around to every gun store and like collect up the green books and then compile all of that information into a usable database? That's
No,
a
and I
very,
think back
very
then they
manually
were
intensive process.
required a warrant of some kind or some authority to do that. I don't.
Well, the
think
green
that
book
they
doesn't
need-
require a
No.
warrant. The green book is a condition of your firearms business
Fair.
license.
But I
Property in
mean,
the state or whatever, like your passport.
with this like super un-gun friendly administration, I don't doubt that they would waste millions and billions of dollars doing something stupid like that.
It seems like a really dumb way to implement a registry, to go to every gun store and collect the green books and then punch the information into a computer,
I
when
mean,
they could just be
yes.
like, as part of the transfer process, you just record it when you get the transfer number, and then it would just
I
go
mean,
into your.
yes, but also look at who
What's
we're
the
talking
like?
about.
What's the worst SQL database I could put something into? Like Free SQL or something? My
but
my
like,
my SQL.
No, just use the
they
same
just
one
use
as,
one
the
giant
paper-
Excel
the
file.
Phoenix. Just put it in
Yeah,
the
perfect.
Phoenix
A giant
Phoenix.
Excel file. That is what the government would do. You're
Excel.
That
Why
is-
don't they use Sheets? Oh, because they're government. They have to pay for it. They wouldn't use the free option. But if you go,
Well,
if
they
you actually
would,
look
but-
at Bill C-71, go to Part 2, scroll all the way down. And now I've lost it. But in Part 2, ending the Long Gun Registry Act, it basically says that everything that was put into effect to take away the Long Gun Registry is no longer a valid act. So we have a Long Gun Registry again. And anyone who has any of that data, it's okay that you broke all, you didn't listen to those previous acts because they were deemed to never have been
I
valid.
don't think that that's how that works.
What do you mean?
Just
can't-
because they have an act to amend the act that amended the Firearms Act does not mean that there is a non-restricted registry.
No. What I mean is that the act, the Long Gun Registry or whatever,
The fact
put
that
into
that's
place
gone legitimizes the fact that there are still 2 copies of the long gun registry at least in circulation, because if there's
That's
no
a different
Yeah.
a different problem than this May 18th recording the
Yeah.
transactions
Yeah.
piece.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, how hard is it to re-implement or put into place all
Well-
the $2 billion the government spent over who knows how many years to get that program up and running, and it was a complete flop to put a plug the
well,
plug
but
it back
this
in.
is but it's not, especially when they introduce these 2 pieces that effectively, depending on how it gets like actually implemented on the ground and not just on paper, it's either already there or very close to being there, that all it takes is a couple more pen strokes down the line to add in the missing piece.
Well, and I think I think the government, in typical government fashion, has just not thought this through and rushed something through to have a soundbite.
Yeah.
But
Or
I also
maybe they
we all
are
knew
playing
C71
40
was
chess for
rushed.
once, right? Like maybe that was we're not having a long gun registry. Well, we've already got 3/4 of the registry in place. What's one more piece? You're already having to call in to transfer. Now, if they just start asking you because you're used to it, like what if they just ask you now, well, what's the serial number?
when this is what I think is
Yeah.
it's going to come down to the actual implementation. And I don't think that they're in a position to implement a new procedure for the CFP right now.
Oh,
No,
just-
but fuck them.
Also,
just saying, like,
Nova Scotia.
but
5
technically,
more
you only
guns
really
before
need
the
4.
18th.
Yeah, but technically, you only really need to do it on anything you purchased after the 18th.
No.
Allegedly.
No. The stores
You
do.
wouldn't-
You
you
have
wouldn't-
to when you,
you wouldn't
transfer anything.
Be caught per se unless you're an idiot and they're selling to a cop.
You should definitely follow
But-
all of the firearms laws. You should definitely follow all
of them.
of the firearms laws.
Yes.
And remember, when it goes to trial, my defense is it's not an improvised explosive device.
My
There's
defense.
nothing
is,
improvised about it.
My defense is I'm going to get a little bit better at patching holes in the walls.
Yeah,
I'm
I
I'm
feel
doing
like
some
they're doing a run on
landscaping this
PVC
summer.
pipe and
Yeah.
drywall.
Wait a
Bet.
second. If you purchase a firearm,
Why do you
in
need a
States-
cistern in the middle of this field, Liz? Mhm.
Just, you know, a little bit of heritage development.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, let's go talk about Nova Scotia. I think bunch of things have come out recently about the mass casualty incident that took place in April of 2020. Media is all over the place, but I want to start with the National Post article because it entertained me the most. Mast. That's when you put the guy on that. It's the big pole in the middle of the ship. Mass shootings caused by masculinity, says report commissioned by Nova Scotia Inquiry, which is a very attention-grabbing headline, but is actually a very boring article.
Yeah, especially since it's mostly US based.
It is a study that comes out of researchers from the University of California. And while they are not wrong, most of their research is based on, unsurprisingly, American statistics.
Yeah.
Weird.
So I'm not entirely sure what that has to do with the Porta Peak mass killings that took place in April, but apparently it's all somehow related, and it's my fault because I have a penis.
No,
Oh, don't-
it's your
don't
fault
forget
because
Orange
you have
Man.
higher testosterone.
Wait.
And I'm also more likely to own
Assuming-
firearms, and I'm also more likely to be violent.
Yeah. And didn't you know in the States right now?
No,
there's
that's only a social thing. Sorry, Liz. Continue.
what? Gender is only a social thing?
No.
Because that also is true in the States. That's where I was going with that.
Yes.
I was
Oh,
like,
no,
it's
I was
a
gonna
Gender,
social
gender is an
construct.
ideological
It is
construct.
Fluid.
Except-
Everyone in the states
except when it
enamored
comes
by this
to-
woman
to
who's
rights.
beating on this man and saying no one will believe you because you're a man and a woman's beating you.
You
We
mean
don't
the
know how
Johnny
many
Depp,
men.
Amber Heard.
I don't
trial?
want to talk about American court cases about their celebrities.
But
That's
in all
exactly
reality, there is domestic abuse that goes on both sides. It's not one side story, but the question is how much is on one side because apparently there's a social stigma about saying that a woman's beating
I
you.
mean, yes,
But I
but I
think-
don't. I
There is,
actually don't
and I
disagree
admit
with
that,
the
but-
University of California thing on this. Men are more likely to be violent because that's what men do.
Well,
Yeah.
but again, it is linked to higher testosterone, right? So
Yeah.
Because
It's
of the
not
penis. Well, I guess because of the testes, but go on.
Yeah. The penis is irrelevant. It's all about the balls.
right.
So should
Yeah.
we just give all females testosterone shots and then level
No,
one
no, no,
the
no.
field and
I'm
see?
pretty
No,
sure
and see-
that the high
Pierre,
rate of
Pierre,
transgenderism indicates that's already happening.
In
Yeah,
order to
so there's
equal
gonna
the
be
playing
more
level,
violence.
you never give those who don't have more. You take away from those who have more, so they have less.
Yeah, but I
They
want
never
to keep all 3 of my testicles.
Yeah, but that's not how they envision what you're saying. So you have to be clear.
So all the
What-
3
I
testicle
too don't want to
people
lose any
don't make-
bodily functions.
So
I
are
would
what
like
you're
to be clear
saying,
that
Benny, is that so it can't be that they give women a leg up in this instance. They need to
No.
like bring dudes down.
Yes, that is
Yeah,
how
by
they
trying to
approach it.
take their third leg.
Think about it. Communism isn't giving a bunch of poor people more money. It's taking all the money from the rich people.
Oh, I don't disagree. I just was
Yes.
clarifying. I think that that's the ideology that's going on. But anyways, I think
If
that
you're too
that's
tall, they'll
why.
cut your legs to make you shorter.
Oh gosh, I'm too tall, but I'd never go for that.
That's okay because it's only the short people that have to vote that way.
Right. But either way, I'm just saying that is like when I read a clickbait title like that, that's where I think it's coming from. Is that
I was expecting a
yeah.
lot more from the National Post on this one because it is like this headline was
Yeah.
like,
super
I thought we
clickbaity.
hit, I thought I had solid gold for an episode of this, and it's
Yeah.
literally just like some researchers
Data.
at University of California drew a bunch of conclusions from a bunch of data, and they're making a really big leap with it. It's like individually the conclusions are not false. Like, yes, men are more violent. Men also own more guns. Therefore, men commit mass shootings. Wait. I was with you.
Well,
but then, like,
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing, if I may. Here's the really interesting thing about studies like that I find to throw a little bit of a wrench in this whole like equality neo-feminist movement that is occurring. The idea is that like if men are more aggressive, more likely to own firearms, maybe more likely, even on a reporting level, to create domestic, violence issues, wouldn't that also, say that women are maybe physically less aggressive, less, violent, all of these things? Like it's almost like they're disproving their point by trying to prove.
Are you trying to say that there are only two genders and that we need to fall into one of those two categories?
And that men and women aren't equal?
The cognitive
But they're
dissonance
not.
is strong with these ones.
Yeah.
There's no other way to
Well,
explain it.
I mean,
From the beginning, their ideology just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, this whole idea that this is all masculinity and all that is ridiculous
white
because they
supremacy
keep
and racism.
blaming like toxic masculinity, but then who are the ones that generally seem to be the most violent? And it's generally the kids that come from broken homes where there's an absent father. So like if toxic
abusive.
masculinity was a thing, wouldn't they learn that from their father? And so the absence of a male parent figure means that they're not exposed to toxic masculinity. So shouldn't they only be exposed then to this softer, kinder, gentler female energy and not be violent? Like,
so
but like
it
you're saying,
doesn't
it
make
disproves
sense.
all of that.
Yes.
Like,
so, and the other thing too is that the actual phrase toxic masculinity is an identifying phrase that has been provided. All it does is like, it's the left's way. I'm going to say the left, but it's the asshole's way of saying
same.
that they just aren't into like alpha males. Right. That they're not okay with alpha males, and alpha males are like kind of made because they have strong, role models and male figures leading them up. Exactly what you were saying.
And I would say that the
right.
alpha
And when you
males
don't
are the
have
ones
that,
that don't have the toxic masculinity. They're masculine, sure.
Yeah,
and
but
like
I mean,
ultra
certain
masculine maybe,
people,
but it's like the beta males that want to be alpha males are usually the toxic
and
ones
that's
because they're
why they're calling it that, though, right? It's no different than like people that claim. I just watched a video and I don't know why I did it, like 100% killed some brain cells, but it was this woman talking about like fat phobia. So like fat people are blaming skinny people for being fat. It's no different.
But who's blaming the seed oils?
but the whole point is though, is that like beta males are blaming bad masculine behavior on alpha males because they aren't alpha males, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they also be blaming seed oil and maybe soy?
Yeah,
probably.
I
feel
but
like
then there's just also
people who carry out
garbage.
these things aren't alpha males.
No,
like
They're
I feel like
farthest
there's
thing
probably
from it.
beta males that are they're sick of being beta and they're trying to move forward
yeah,
or trying to up their status. So
or just don't know how to deal with like the emotional and psychological fucked upness. Pardon my language.
No, no.
It's okay. You're allowed to curse on this show. It might
Okay,
actually
I
be
was like, wait a
encouraged.
second.
I don't know that you say the F-bomb very often, not like the rest of the panel.
Yeah, well,
Hey,
yeah.
What the fuck's that
Probably
supposed to
more
mean?
than Benny. But
You fucking heard me.
I have a mouth on me. Anyways, but I think that it's just like this super messed up
Well, of course it's
frustration.
messed up.
I don't know how to say it without like it's this frustration of these guys that have like an innate need in them to actually be traditional masculine men, and they are not equipped with those skills because they don't have
What you
good
mean?
role
Like
models.
they're not like socially well adjusted and don't deal well in
No,
society
and
and can't get
that's
along with other people and they act out
what-
and
Yeah, and
I
then
think
they,
we just call those people incels now. Isn't that the word that we use for them?
I I
yeah,
don't think
that
in this
honestly
case,
have a
was a
girlfriend.
thing.
in the Nova Scotia case, he has a whole string of domestic violence charges against his can you call them opposite sex partner? Partner of a different gender? Partner of a different pronoun.
They're the partner
They
that
said
presents
girlfriend.
as a different gender. Whether that
Right, 'cause
matches
he had
their
a-
biological one or not.
Right? 'Cause
I'm
the
pretty sure they
perpetrator
said
in the
girlfriend.
Nova Scotia mass killing had a bunch of domestic violence charges against his, I think,
Yeah.
girlfriend or common law wife, one or the other.
I guess same thing.
Yeah,
It's whether it's
According to the
whether
government,
they
it
can,
is.
whether they can like attend your hospital bed or not. I guess is what's up for debate. But like, yeah, he was a shitty person. Like
yeah.
through and
But I
through,
mean-
multiple times over, it's been proven he was a shitty person.
But even if, like, to your argument, Andrew, like maybe it was you, Andrew, maybe it wasn't, but the fact that he was able, like, that he was in this partnership with string of domestic abuse, maybe would denote him being an incel. However, like that also speaks to a greater social issue where
Well, that's what I mean. Like this dude had a girlfriend who ended
Yeah,
up being
but-
a common law partner who he couldn't get along with because he was a maladjusted person.
yeah, but then she also is like an ill-equipped human being because
Yes.
like red flags, like women
Yeah.
have instincts. You can tell when somebody is an asshole. You just don't pay
Well,
attention to them long enough, or you get
I think there's a difference.
addicted to the believed affirmation of that person desiring you, right?
I think there's a difference
you're
between being able to
willing-
tell if they're an asshole and being able to tell if they're going to grow up to like go on to cause a mass casualty event.
I
Potato,
think
potato.
this guy had many flags on the play that should have alerted a lot of people a long time ago
Yeah.
that there was
Yeah.
a ticking time bomb here. But you know what
Yeah.
would have stopped this? If someone
The guy
had
with
to
the gun?
call in to check the status of his pal before they gave him those illegal handguns and shotguns.
Oh, you mean the illegal handguns that he acquired in America that he was also
Yeah,
not allowed
yeah.
to get in America and then
Yeah.
smuggled into Canada?
or
Those
that one
those
that he
illegal
got from
handguns?
the relative that had the thing at the auction or whatever, that one? Yeah, if they
Yeah,
had
the
called in
one-
to check out his
or
pal.
the cop he
Maybe we
killed.
should talk about a couple of those handguns and other things that were illegally smuggled in because he, I guess, had a friend in Maine. An
Is that the-
acquaintance
Was that the one with the drone, or is that a different story?
No, that's
No,
different
we're
story.
still on Nova Scotia. This is a different.
Yeah.
This is all Nova Scotia.
We don't know
time.
that
Yeah,
he didn't not use a drone, but yeah.
Yeah,
We know that he used a pickup truck. We should ban
Oh,
illegal
well,
smuggling pickup trucks.
Maybe
Just-
that's why
just
they're
to
so
roll
hard
up
to get now.
That's
that's right.
true. I've got a 7
I
month.
mean-
Am I the only
Years
one who
life.
doesn't drive a pickup?
I don't drive a pickup truck.
I don't drive one
Oh.
yet.
I
I'm
have
waiting
one in
on
my driveway though, but I don't drive it frequently.
That's all right. I drive
A,
enough
you should get a pickup
for all
truck.
of
They're
you
way
boys.
cooler. B, how are you going to exercise your toxic masculinity without a jacked up truck?
Right. I exhibit my toxic masculinity all the time.
I've seen your truck. Your
Yeah.
truck is cooler than my truck.
I
That's
know
why
it
Liz is
is.
so violent. She's probably the most violent one on the panel.
You better believe it.
I mean, of all the people on the panel that I don't want to get
By
choked
the
out
way,
by, I don't
my
want to get choked out by
exercise
Liz the
today was
most.
ballroom dancing.
Yeah, I still don't want to get choked
I'm
out.
scary.
So
Just
What-
remember,
20
his
bucks.
safe word is pineapple.
it's true. My safe word is
I
pineapple.
don't pay attention to people's safe words. Sorry.
Well,
Savage. That's
Yeah.
that
Little bit.
toxic masculinity right there.
I am somebody actually said the other day, and it was like, I mean, it was taken like it was a little bit of a weird conversation, but I pretty much got called an alpha female, and I was told that I could be easily confused as a lesbian because I wear plaid and stuff like that, and I'm an alpha female, and I'm like, you mean I don't give a shit what you think of me? Okay.
Oh, you don't have the right haircut.
I used to. I used to. And you know what? I used to have like, I literally, oh yeah, and I got a sleeve of tattoos. That probably doesn't help. But I had like a shaved head, or I had like a pink hairdo, you know, the singer Pink. Because in jujitsu, it's a lot easier if you don't have hair.
I should really get into jujitsu.
You should.
So people can mistake
Everybody
you as a
should.
lesbian?
Yeah. And I already don't have the hair.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough.
I could use that as an excuse.
Is that how that
Fair,
works?
fair enough.
Yeah.
Can we talk about
Okay.
smuggling handguns? I'm also okay with talking about
Not a
lesbians.
how-to.
That's-
Yeah, not a how-to smuggle handguns. But yes, let's talk about smuggling lesbians.
Also,
Go
I
on.
will say that I have maxed out my knowledge on lesbians. Sorry. Contrary to that conversation I had, I am not a lesbian, nor do I have any insight into their lives, aside from
After
apparently
many,
plaid.
many years of thorough research on the internet, I'll be happy to send you some links.
I don't want, nope, none of it. I don't want any of that. I don't want that. Then you get stupid ads on your web browsers. I don't want that shit.
There could be hot
That's
milfs
why
in
you
your
don't
area.
want them.
They're only 3 miles away.
I wouldn't open any of it, but then for some reason they're like, oh, you're receiving links of this topic. Let's get you some ads. Get
Oh, you're
some
probably going to get them already
traffic.
because we're talking about it. Your computer heard it. So yeah.
You're probably right. I got my cell phone right next to me too.
All of a sudden, you're going to
Lamb's
start
probably
seeing ads
listening.
for like denim vests and Blundstone shoes.
That might already be an ad list on my computer. Denim vests and
Well, we either need to
Blundstone.
dive down the lesbian rabbit hole or talk about smuggled guns, because I don't want to.
Okay, Andrew, tell me about these smuggled guns.
Well, okay, so we should talk about this. So,
Yeah.
apparently, Wortman has a, I don't know, I'm going to say friend, associate in Maine, in
Yeah.
Holton, Maine. Does anybody know how to say that name of that?
Holton,
town?
Houlton, something like that.
Houlton.
I don't know.
Houlton.
I'm going with Houlton because that is the funniest way to pronounce it.
I mean,
Like cool.
is it a silent U or?
I think we're
Coolton.
thinking about this. Coolton.
And I'm going to call this guy Cologne because, again, I'm not sure how to say his name and if it's in French or not. So I'm going to call him Cologne.
Yeah.
There's so many mess ups with the letters the way you pronounce it.
Right?
Conlogue. Conlogue, maybe?
Yeah.
Conlogue? Conlogue?
There you go.
I still like
There's
Cologne.
definitely got to be some. Yeah. Sean Cologne. Yeah.
There you go. That's fine. Do
So
that.
at one point, because Wortman was staying at his property so much and helping do handyman type chores by the sounds of things, which makes me think maybe they have some knowledge of these not so heterosexual relationships.
Maybe. Not everything is
Are you saying
Brokeback
that he
Mountain,
couldn't?
though.
Are you saying that he couldn't quit him? Is that?
Well, I'm
Like I
saying
said,
that
not
he
everything
gave
is
him,
Brokeback Mountain.
for some reason, he gave him a Ruger P38. Is that the right? Or
I think-
Ruger P89. P38 is a very different gun.
Yeah.
Much more German. So he gave the Cologne gave Wortman a Ruger P89, which, as a non-resident alien, non-immigrant, Wortman would not have been able to legally take possession of in the state of Maine, at least the way that I understand the gun laws in Maine.
Yeah.
He definitely couldn't put it in the roll-up tonneau cover of his truck and drive it back into Canada without declaring and registering it. Oh, and P.S., the Ruger P89, not normally fitted with a barrel that would be long enough to be legal to be a restricted firearm in Canada. It, by definition, a prohibited firearm.
Shocking.
But
This
don't
picture
worry.
I'm looking at, are these all restricted in Canada?
Or prohibited.
Prohibited. Okay.
The other firearm that Cologne gave Wortman was a Glock 23, which is a 40 caliber Glock, but it has a 4-inch barrel.
Yeah.
And
Also,
for all of our gun aficionados that listen to the podcast, everybody knows that a restricted pistol has to have a 4.25-inch barrel. So this was a 1/4 of an inch too short. They nipped the tip.
Yeah.
No good. So definitely not allowed. So both of these guns would have been prohibited had they have been able to be imported legally, which they were not because they were smuggled into the country. And because of the technical characteristics of both firearms, also prohibited. Just on technical characteristics. The Colt patrol carbine, the Colt AR-15 that was involved, I believe could have been a restricted firearm. I don't think it's anything particularly special about it.
Nope. Doesn't look like it's a full auto one or anything.
No.
The same is true of the Ruger Mini 14. Again, nothing particularly special, and prior to the change in the OIC, likely would have been a non-restricted rifle. But still can't be illegally imported into the country. You have to declare them and register them and have a valid PAL and all of these good things, which it seems that Wortman may not have had a valid PAL.
Well, he
It doesn't
certainly didn't have a valid
specifically
FAC.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't specifically say about a PAL.
It says, I'm interested to know like what would have happened to the guy Cologne for having given these to him. Nothing, right? Like, what are the gun laws in Maine around this?
So I
technically,
believe
it goes in the article that she can be charged.
Okay. I haven't
I don't.
quite-
No, but if you read the article, it sounds like they're not really going to do anything. But like, other than
It's
say like,
not,
hey, that was
because
illegal.
It
Right.
is illegal, but it's not really a problem. The issue is on Wortman. He's not allowed to be a non-resident alien that receives, purchases, or otherwise acquires these firearms in Maine. The guy in Maine can do basically whatever he wants with them. He just should not have given them to a non-resident alien.
Yeah,
He-
and the
like, he put
RCMP has said that they don't plan to hold him accountable for anything either, because like,
Which again, I don't think they should. The onus is not on him because he's like, hey, in America,
And
I guess if you do enough Brokeback Mountain stuff, you might get a Ruger.
so
Yeah.
the other thing is that what can the RCMP really do to him? Like prevent him from coming to Canada? Sure.
That would probably be the extent of it.
But that's the
yeah,
extent of
I
it.
mean, they could
They
try
can't
to
unless
push
it's
like
accessory
on the
to
American
crime.
side to
Yeah,
They
Unless
could,
unless
the
you-
Americans.
they
Sorry.
couldn't really
They're not-
haul him in.
I was
Right,
going
like-
to say the only way that they could is if American authorities supported their
Yeah.
claim to it and
Well,
like
and
technically
that's-
like deported him to Canada
and-
for that.
And like, it would be one thing if this guy helped him plot the thing
Sure.
and there was more of a connection to it rather than like, this is the guy that gave him some guns because he helped out on the property, then I think they would have pushed for that. But like,
Mhm.
if this was like he thought this guy was all right because he was helping him out, doing weird, backdoor stuff possibly, and was like, thanks for all of the butt stuff. Here's a couple of guns or whatever. Like, especially if he doesn't quite understand how Canadian gun laws work, because that's not his problem, because he gave them to him in America. It's really not worth pursuing.
You know what? I think I misspoke earlier when I said the P89 wasn't prohibited in Canada. I think it's actually a 4.75-inch barrel, so it's probably good to go before somebody in the comment section corrects me. Because
But
I
I
think
thought
somebody's already on my case about the Glock.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't have to be 4.1 inch.
4.25 to be legal in Canada. The Ruger P89 looks
So
to be a
is it like
4.75-inch.
406 millimeters or something, I think, if I recall. Around that.
Something in that, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
Which
not
is why, like,
406. That would be
the-
very long. 106 maybe.
Is it 100? Okay, yeah. Yeah, that sounds better. Because like the Glock 19 and the Glock 40 are the same thing, just different calibers. So like the ones in 9 and the others in 40 or whatever. So like it's the 19 in Canada's just got like that little
Yes,
tiny
the
extra,
the 19 and the 23 are the same, just
Yeah,
different
it's
calibers.
just slightly longer barrel for the Canadian version one.
Yes. But again, You can't just go importing them into the country. And if the barrel is not meeting the requisite length, you can't import it at all because it needs to have a barrel of a legal length to be a restricted as opposed to prohibited firearm. And you certainly can't just drive across the border with them without declaring them, and you need to have the appropriate licenses here to have them.
Do you know what's interesting, though, in reading this article? If you scroll this main article that I'm getting any information I know about this from CBC, they're saying that he had a Nexus card. And that's insane because even though he didn't have a criminal record, but that conditional discharge after the 2001 assault should have flagged.
Well, I guess when you're an RCMP informant, getting a Nexus card is easy.
I would assume that kind of should put you also on a list.
I mean, it should, but I don't know that it would, because does your domestic situation have bearing on your ability to transit the border between countries?
So the other thing that kind of like, if I was somebody that was looking, like suspecting, oh, hey, my neighbor over here is informing for the RCMP. Oh, he's kind of a shady mofo, but he can cross the border like super easy and has super extra access. That's just confirming to me that he's like working with the feds.
Yeah, or there's something shady going on.
Yeah. I'm like, that makes him shadier.
Yeah, like the longer this goes on, the more and more like weird stuff gets brought up.
None of this makes any sense. Why does he have a Nexus? Why is he obtaining firearms illegally in Maine? Why are those firearms being illegally imported into Canada? Why have multiple neighbors complained to the RCMP and they never did anything about it? Like what was it, 2000 and...
There were
2010, one of the neighbors complained about him having illegal firearms?
Well, in 2020, they're saying that, gunmen who've never had a license. Yeah, he's reported several times. 2011.
I thought there was also a case in 2010 where a neighbor complained about him having.
And I think there was one in like 2018.
Yeah, 2011.
There were three.
Yeah, 2011, 2010, and 2013.
Sounds like our park one.
This seems like I don't know, a failing on the RCMP for not having done any kind of police work.
Yeah,
but I suppose when it's your informant, why would you bother to do any like?
Apparently, he also boasted a history of smuggling.
Yeah, cigarettes from neighbors. Yeah, he was smoking. But but also on the next article, right? Like it's also the neighbor's fault for not contacting CBSA and saying, "Hey,
no, I don't put the onus on the neighbor for that. If the neighbor complained to the RCMP and the RCMP didn't do anything about it, like, I don't know. I don't want my neighbors calling CBSA because they don't like the way that I drive my truck or whatever, right? That's
no.
I think that's where a lot of people are sitting, right? Is that, oh, I don't want to snitch on somebody, just stay away from the shady person, right?
I mean,
there's a difference between stay away from the shady person and go out of your way to be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, if you think somebody is doing domestic violence or has illegal guns, calling the RCMP to me seems like the right course of action. If the RCMP is your local constabulary as well as your federal police force, as they are in rural Nova Scotia, calling the police and being like, hey, this guy seems like he's got illegal guns. That seems like the right thing to do. Yeah. Why would I want to call the CBSA and be like, hey, I think this guy's got illegal guns? What's CBSA going to care? I mean, I guess in this case, he's got a Nexus and he's transiting the border.
I'm also saying that
they also let him pass the border anyway. So what's the heads up going to do? They're going to be like, oh, okay, he's got a Nexus. And
these are also the same police, though, that had been notified of, the location of this guy as he was going around shooting people, and they showed up late to the scene.
Well, that's because he was drunk on wine.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. That's the whole dynamic of obviously how law is handled on a federal level. And it's a federal force provincially handling it, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was also saying you're calling.
Go on,
Benny.
I was going to say, I think we've already established that the government's ability to have everything say that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, but because they say everything's okay, everything's okay. So no matter what the commission would have brought forward, the end result would have been we did nothing wrong and nothing wrong ever happened. Yeah. Irrelevant of what their findings were.
Yeah.
Well, agreed.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, the only reason I said the neighbor not calling CBSA is because the CBC, or is it, yeah, it's one of the articles. I'm pretty sure it's the CBC one where, they interviewed CBSA saying, well, what did you guys do to prevent this? And they were like, well, if someone would have told us this guy was probably smuggling guns, we've got dogs, we've got, and it's like,
except that you're the ones that allowed him into the country. Like, I think they're trying to point the finger at someone else when it should be pointed squarely at them, because they ultimately are the ones that failed at their job in allowing those guns across the border, which I get is not an easy job, especially when you have a massive border. But like, if he drove across in his truck at an actual border crossing, that's the worst case scenario for him and best case scenario for you, and you failed.
Yeah, so that's all I was saying about that. But we should.
Don't be a snitch and like rat on your neighbors for having like an illegal COVID barbecue. But like, if you think that they're legit terrible people doing really like actual bad things, it's not snitching. That's looking out for your health and safety.
Yes.
I feel that in this case, the neighbors that reported this and were like, hey, RCMP, this guy seems like a bad dude and probably has a bunch of illegal firearms. That's the end of that. They did the right thing. And I mean, I don't know, small tangent. I'm that guy that calls 911 when I get nearly hit by drunk drivers, which seems to be a frequent occurrence for me. But after my interaction with law enforcement this week, I'm probably just never doing that again. And I feel a little bit bad about it. But also, like, if law enforcement is going to give me grief about calling in drunk drivers, I'm just not going to deal with them.
So you're going to have to tell us the story now.
Well, small tangent, and then we should do the lightning round if there is one. Driving home from work, as I often do, I have a reasonably long commute, and I've recently gone back to the office a little bit. And coming out of the local Krabby Joe's parking lot, I nearly got hit. And the car that nearly hit me then also nearly hit a minivan turning into the local Walmart. So as I normally do, I pushed the talk button on the steering wheel, and I said, hey, Google, call 911. And Google did its thing, and I got connected to local emergency services and said, hey, like, drunk driver, here's a tag number. This is the direction of travel. And they're like, yeah, we don't have anyone to deal with this right now. I was like, oh, okay.
So we should wait until he gets into an accident and then go find people to fucking deal with it.
It was a very unpleasant conversation with a dispatcher. They didn't want the tag number. They didn't want the direction of travel. And she ended up just telling me they were busy and hung up. So
they could have, at least if they were busy, just taken it anyways. Like, made you feel better.
Yeah,
at least make it feel like your community
no problem.
safer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right? You weren't following them. You weren't doing anything. Like, just say, "Oh, awesome, thanks. We'll try and find them."
It's dumb.
Yeah, but
no. So it's dumb. I'm just not going to do that anymore. So good luck to the drunk drivers out there. From now on, I'm probably just going to follow you home.
That's one way of dealing with it.
Yeah, I'd like to report a drunk driver at grid location 17T. Yeah.
I've definitely called the police on a bad driver before, though. And I was fortunate because the police did show up within 5 minutes. But
and that's been my experience before. I've had unpleasant driving interactions with people where I've had to call emergency services to be like, well, this Yahoo's going in a ditch. And then the Yahoo does go in a ditch. And I'm always like, well, karma and stuff.
Yeah, I've done that too. Like, it's one thing if somebody is like speeding. I don't care as long as they're being relatively safe. But when you're that dick that's speeding and like weaving in and out and cutting people off, especially
it was more in my case this week. It was more that like impacting the curbs was like, well, that's probably not.
Yeah. Well, and
driving by braille I've not advised.
Seen that. Maybe that's more of a rural thing because in the city they would just hit a car first.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been just that the curb was the closest thing for them to run into, but
I have a dash cam now. I don't trust shit.
Dash cam.
I should probably get one of those.
They don't cost, like, I literally just went to Canadian Tire and got one. Don't get me wrong, though. When I got into an accident, I got to rewatch that. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you just get a good memory card. Make sure delete and keep what.
Well, it'll actually like. It'll actually go over it. So
It will?
if you
Okay.
know, it's like a 7-day type of thing, and it just like films over it. And it was pretty cool actually, because I was up north and like northern Ontario, well, middle Ontario.
So Barry,
by
you went to
Sault Ste.
Barry.
No, I was like past that. I was like,
So you went to
Wawa.
Aurelia.
No, I was like Wawa. So like north of Sault Ste. Marie. And we had like a black bear literally run in front of my truck. So that was pretty cool. We
boy.
got that on camera. Yeah, had to slam on the brakes. I mean, no vehicle for miles, but the black bear's like, hey, let's check out her vehicle.
Oh, hey Gavin, remember that time that we almost got a deer land on the truck?
Yeah,
That was terrifying.
Oh, and then like
I'm
a few
driving
days
home from
before
New
that, when we
Brunswick with
almost hit a
Gavin.
moose, yeah.
Gavin's having like a nice cozy nap, and I'm like screaming in terror as there's a deer flying through the air about to land on my truck because it got hit by the vehicle next to us.
That's insane. That's insane. Yeah, we took what's like very friendly known, like locally known as like the tail of the dragon up north. It's so a lot of like motorcycle people take it and stuff like that. But we were really nervous about wildlife because, you know, and there's no fuel stations for a while, no cell service. And I was with somebody who was not equipped to deal with anything to do with that. So
I always have a skinning kit in my truck.
see, I don't think that this person that I was with, like, I think I would have had to deal with her first and be like, okay, you need to sit down, shut up. Maybe I'll get you some like high meds to knock you out so that I can deal with the actual problem before, you know, those kind of people, right?
She
I
didn't.
mean,
She didn't
if you
need
got a
tools.
pickup truck, you don't need the skinning kit. You just throw it in the bed.
Yeah.
And,
Deal with it later.
Yeah, that's not the issue. It's the people that you're with when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, that's what the bottle of whiskey in the trunk is for,
Is that why you have that?
amongst
That's
other
it.
reasons.
As we get further distracted about bad driving and the inability of law enforcement to perform basic functions of the service they're meant to provide, does anybody have anything lightning round before I strike out all of the rest of the stack?
I mean,
Provincial election?
fuck that guy and fuck all the government agencies that failed at preventing this.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of that.
That's very fair. I think, yes, Liz, to that point, at some point we should probably talk about the Ontario election because we do get a lot of listeners from Ontario, and as everyone else knows, Ontario is the home of the center of the universe. So
I actually saw a bunch of signs out today.
Yeah, the same.
next
Me
week,
too.
maybe we talk about elections.
I'm getting my sign this week.
Yeah,
Is
Me
it a
too.
big one that says "fuck everyone, you all suck"?
No,
You
actually,
all
because
suck.
there's a couple of new parties that like provincially that were kind of like born out of getting kicked out of their caucuses due to fighting back against a lot of the stuff that's happened in the last 2 years. So, I mean, there's some good options out there. And I think that that is important that people understand that, because honestly, if there wasn't these options, it would be relatively hopeless.
oh.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to find out how we can blackpill you about the election.
Yay.
And just to add on to Gavin's about fuck all the agencies for failing to protect everybody about everything that happened. Fuck them for coming after us that have done nothing wrong and
Proof.
saying that we're irresponsible to be able to do many things that we used to enjoy.
Yeah, I want to take my guns to the range.
Yeah.
I'd like to legally participate in some shooting sports if it pleases the crown.
Yeah.
Book
But,
club
you
this
know,
month.
Buy more guns before the 18th.
Well, every time that a politician tells a lie, I buy another box of ammo. I have a lot of ammo.
Yeah. Infinite supply.
Not quite. I mean, credit cards only go so far.
It's getting there though.
So does the foundation of my house.
Holds its resale value nicely. So
It's true. Semi precious metals are where it's at.
I
My,
also
my
think that
investment
it's
strategy is very heavy in lead.
so I have an investment strategy of like, I was like, oh, when the supply chain really screws up, I think that we're going to have shortages in for sure food, but also alcohol and ammo. So
Two things that I have in handy supply.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I'm going to have a mercantile over here.
Not to be
Ooh, a
confused with a
mercantile.
merkin, but
Yeah.
thankfully none
If
of
you
our
have a
feud
mercantile, I
distribution.
may have to start a haberdashery.
Yeah,
I like that
thankfully
you
none of
know
our
that.
feud distribution places have mysteriously set on fire up here yet.
I know, just all the ones in the States. Frig.
That's okay. The Canadian laws are much better. Our safety standards are very high. I'm sure none of our food processing plants will mysteriously catch on fire or be hit by airplanes 3 times in a month.
No, that certainly wouldn't happen up here.
All right, book club this month. Last Monday of the month, we always do book club. This month is Clockwork Orange. June is going to be 48 Laws of Power. Get your reading going because there's some hefty books coming.
Yeah. Thankfully, Clockwork's a short one. You just have to get through the terrible slang.
It's awful.
It's
Oh
so bad.
my
Whose idea was
gosh.
this, Liz?
It's only because I have like a stack of books that I want to read. I got it on discount in the sale
It's
bin.
almost like she had an ulterior motive in this. Although, I
So
mean, it
next-
is sort of an appropriate book given the subject matter and everything.
Well, that's okay. So that's what got me is like you read the back of the book and you're like, oh, hey, this could be interesting. It's also like a pretty short read. So you're like, hey, this won't be that bad.
It's that bad.
Took me a
It's
really
I'm
long
not a
time to
fan.
read
I'm
chapter 1.
Not enjoying this book.
Yeah.
But let's go around. Where can people find you? Who do you want to shout out? What the best lesbian bar in Perth County is, so on and so forth. We'll start with Liz.
So first of all, I have no idea again about any of the lesbian stuff.
I don't even know if we
So-
have a bar.
I'm sure it's called the Haberdashery.
That'd
Andrew
be a
is
gay bar,
starting.
if anything, don't you think?
Well, no, because
I
they
feel
want to be
like
the
it would-
dudes.
Oh, is that how
Isn't
that
it?
works?
I'm not an expert.
I
on
thought
it.
that lesbians hated dudes.
I thought a haberdashery was a men's clothing store. Was I misusing this word?
Also, I
No,
am
it
pretty
is,
sure
but
that I
isn't
have
that how they want to dress with the
heavily
flannel and the venom?
stereotyped a lot of things at this point in the evening. So,
That's all right. Stereotyping saves lives and saves time.
okay.
No. It's called
Okay.
heuristics when you do it that way.
Oh,
Okay. Well, anyways, I have no desire to talk about that topic. I mean, from a sociological or psychology standpoint, sure, let's discuss, but I don't have a lot of tidbits to add. I do have some plaid shirts though. You can find me on Twitter at Liz Fawcett #4 and on Instagram at Liz_Fawcett 9876. You can find me on Facebook, but I usually don't add people I don't know. So there's that.
All right. Pierre, where can everybody find you? Oh, Pierre's drinking.
Oh, and when am I
Sorry,
not?
buddy.
It's all good. Off the wall customizing. We do t-shirts and shit. If you watch us live, you can find my Instagram thing right over my shoulder here. But I don't do anything with Instagram other than send funny stuff to a group chat. So you can try and find me, but you're not going to get much.
Gavin, where can everybody find you?
best place to find me is on the Instagrams, UrbexGTA.
All right. Benny?
Thepackcanada.ca.
That's the entire plug?
That's the whole plug. We're gonna hopefully gonna get some stuff in next week, some new stuff. But our loaders are in, so come in order. That's about it.
Okay.
Did see those. I checked out your website last week. Saw the loaders.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's nice. Benny will demo them for you at the club next time.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
If you are not sick of me yet, you deserve a discount code. If you're shopping at RagnarokTactical.ca, use discount code Patriot at checkout. Help me compete with Benny and his burgeoning empire. If I get enough money together, I might start a haberdashery. It may or may not be a gay disco. We'll find out.
If it's just a
Nobody's
men's
taking that bait.
store,
All
don't
right.
you already have? Do you already have one?
Men's clothing and accessories store.
Yeah, he definitely has the accessories down, and I'm pretty sure. Oh no, you never did carry any.
It's not
clothing.
exclusively men, though. Benny. It's
Well,
just
that's the North
mostly men.
American.
We don't
Because
want
of
to
our toxic
assume.
masculinity.
If
We
you're
don't want to assume.
British translation of haberdashery, it gets more in depth. Small items used in sewing, such as buttons, zippers, and thread, also known as notions.
Notions. I put that on tattoos to help them when I have very good.
Yeah.
That's lotions,
That's
not
lotion.
notions.
Same thing. Same thing.
This is as
But yeah,
bad
you
as how I
put that on
pronounce
tattoo.
Cologne's name. I
Oh
have
my
to apologize
goodness.
to Rod Giltaco. We couldn't get Rod on the show this week. The CCFR is understandably very busy about the upcoming changes to the not a long gun registry that's happening. If you'd like to send us an email, best thing to do is feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Let us know what we got wrong, what we got right, what you don't like, or which gay bar you'd like to hang out in the most. For all of our
You're
listeners
asking
out there,
for a friend.
I'm just, man, anywhere I don't got to buy my own drinks.
Not wrong.
$20 is $20.
For all of our
right?
listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.